So many times you might be working on your drawings and have picked materials that you're actually not even happy with yet. And you need to have a meeting with your client or someone in the project. And you really don't want to get into discussions of materiality. So you really want to control what the person sees. You want to see it in a much more, maybe a much more fluid way. So we're going to actually look at some other rendering modes and how those might benefit that idea. First thing I want to do though is I'm looking at my drawing here and I'm seeing that I'm a little bit out of alignment up here at the top. So I'm just going to grab this and kind of tweak it up a little bit so it looks a little better. You can actually use the arrow tool. So that looks a little better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a second presentation sheet. And this is a really simple process. So all we have to do is go to over the rendered views. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to duplicate the sheet with the views. Now, you can't have more than one view on, so you're actually going to have to duplicate each one of those views. So if you'll notice over here on the right, we're going to see we have rendered view 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to actually duplicate those and rename them, and they'll be called copies. So the first thing I want to do is with all these copies is change their names. I don't like the idea that I have model view in this one here, so actually even in this rendered one, I'm just going to get rid of model. I'm going to delete that. It'll just say rendered view. And for the first view one, oops, I didn't mean to open that. I mean to double click on it. Oops, didn't mean to double click on it. I mean to right click on it. And I'm going to rename it. And we're going to call it Sketch View. And this is really helpful just to go through and do this to kind of avoid confusion going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and that's Sketch View 1 that we have. We have rendered view copy again. We're going to call that sketch view. And we'll get rid of the copy 1 because now it has its own unique name. And the last one is the rendered view 3. And this will be sketch view 3. And getting rid of the copy. Okay, so now, whoops, didn't mean to do that either. I've clicked into excuse me, I changed my screen display there accidentally. So we're now on, if you look up here, we have 103, the unnamed copy that I made. Let's go ahead right away and change the name of this sheet. We had that other one was rendered views. So we're going to rename this one. And let's just call this one sketch views. Oops, sorry. Kind of flipped over the other screen there. And I really don't like that idea of unnamed. So let me just take a minute and let's see if we can just get rid of that extra name down there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and we'll call it sheet 2 just to help us keep track of it. We'll call the other one sheet 1. And this helps to make your presentations look a lot more professional going forward. And even the idea of getting control over your documents when you're working in an environment where multiple people are using the same drawings. So now we have everything kind of labeled consistently. We're on the sketch view, which is our sheet 2 now. And what I want to do is I want to change the renderings of these. Now, you'll notice if I select one of these, let me click off of this. If I click on this one, it says it's rendering with rendering 1. If I click on this one, let's see if that does the same thing. Rendering 1 view template style. And if I click on this one, it says none. And the reason it says none is because originally we started out with this being the one that we worked from. So we never really assigned it the rendering 1 quality. And I'm pointing that out to you because this is where we can get into problems when we're using rendering templates. If we want to actually change this template, if I double click into it and want to render it with a different style, I have no choices available to me. Everything is all grayed out. So what I actually have to do in order to change the rendering style of this is go to the view template and select it back to none and click OK. And now that will allow me now to change any of the rendering values. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to open up the graphic displays palette. And I'm going to change the realistic to just hidden line. And I'll hit apply every time I do that so you can see what's going on here. This is where I'm going to add that idea of sketchy lines. So I'm going to enable sketchy lines. And I'm going to make them jitter, which means they move back and forth like a freehand sketch would. And I'll hit apply to that. It's a little hard to see because we're kind of far out. I'm going to change the background so there is no background. And hit apply to that. Okay, so that's, maybe as much as I want to do right now. And I'm going to save this as a view template. And just as we did before, I'm going to call this, I'll call this sketch style 1. Remember, you could create other sketch styles if you wanted, just as you can rendering styles. And I'm going to click OK. And OK. And now I'm going to deactivate this view. I'll select this view. And now I'm going to apply that second sketch style, that new sketch style. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, so very quickly now I have a presentation document that looks radically different than the other one. And we still have the other one. If I go to the rendered view sheet of the other one, it's still in that exact same style or that we had originally. And we can actually do things to these drawings. For instance, I'm noticing that these beams are here from where we originally created them. And let's say it's time to get rid of those now. So I'm going to double click into these. And I'm going to just hit delete. I'm going to get rid of these beams that go across. I'll deactivate that view. And if we went to the sketch view sheet now, you'll notice they're also gone. So now we have two different styles, but they're still dependent on the same model. So any changes we make, both of these sheets will be updated.